So, I mean, obviously we're alive. I mean, if this process is beginning at a time when we can have lower concerns and higher concerns, we're obviously alive. So why is life only showing up at day 3? It ties back in to the spiritual life, the nature of spiritual life I was talking about before. So, with that in mind, let's see where the story progresses.
And God said, "Let the waters under heaven be gathered into one place, and let dry land appear." And so it was done. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering of waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. And God said, "Let the earth cause the sprouting on the earth of the tender plant, of the plant bearing its seed, of the fruit tree making the fruit that holds its seed, each in the way of its kind." And so it was done. And the earth produced the tender plant, the plant bearing its seed in the way of its kind, and the tree making the fruit that held its seed in the way of its kind. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the third day.
It's cool. It's cool because if you first start to realize, oh, water has to do with mental concepts. And so whenever you see any kind of verse about the organization of water, oh, this means something. And it's not like I know it all. Swedenborg's whole language of correspondence is, there's so much in the text, but you can say, oh, I have a sense of what this is. So isn't that a cool image then? The idea of it used to be just all water, but now we're starting to get this separation. So this stage, we're talking about what does this day mean? This stage is about when our minds are organized and we actually start to change our behavior, because life has to do with behavior, right? That is what drives it. So we're looking here at going from just sort of learning to this change. Now I'm treating people in a different way. I'm approaching situations in a different way. So back to this organization of water that I thought was cool. It creates these divides that we all know now. We like to sit there and hang out at the beach, because it's this meeting of water and land. And this is what's now there's enough organization that you can actually say this spot is water and this spot is land. And the different places are ready to do different kinds of good. And the earth that is described here is us. So you had the first be gathered, we just talked about that, and the water and the separation. And then this earth pops up, and that's a description of the part of us that's ready to receive and to produce, start to receive these truths. And then you have this strange phrasing that's especially strange in this translation of the tender plant, of the plant bearing its seed, of the fruit tree making the fruit that holds its seed. I mean, why couldn't you just say all the plants grew? There was land and plants grew on it. Why these 3 kinds of plants and so much mentioning of seed? All plants have some kind of germination mechanism. Why mentioning the seeds there? And the reason is, and Swedenborg says this is why you get all the strange prose in the Bible, is because all the details have meaning. And it can seem kind of clumsy, but when you understand the meaning, it becomes much more elegant. So looking at these plants, Swedenborg has a lot to say about what exactly each part of it means. In Secrets of Heaven 29, he says, he gives sort of an explanation of this whole thing here. He says, when the earth, a person, is so well prepared as to be able to accept heavenly seed from the Lord and to produce good and truth in some degree, that is the time when the Lord first causes the sprouting of something tender, called the tender plant or grass. If you look at that, so yeah, water is one kind of part of us, and then you have this earth, which is, earth is ready to receive seed and grow. So our mind has been organized to the point where God can start to drop these higher truths in, and they can become plants and grow. So let's go back to Secrets of Heaven 29 and finish it up from there. So this is called the tender plant or grass. So that's the first sprouting. Next, he stimulates something more useful that reseeds itself, the plant bearing its seed. Finally, he germinates something good, which reproduces fruitfully, the tree making the fruit that holds its seed, each of these in the way of its kind. So if you're not used to, Swedenborg will describe the mind like a garden or like a place where things grow. And we're not talking about plants growing in the skull. We're talking about ideas, concepts, plans of action, these things growing. There's all kinds of imagery we use in day-to-day language about growing some kind of idea. So this is what the same language that's being used here in the text of Genesis to describe it. So you have these three different kinds of plants. And first, it's just this sprouting little thing. There's not a lot to it, not a lot of nutrition, it doesn't grow huge, but it's a first little action. Something good is coming out of it. And it moves as we progress from that to the seed-bearing plant, as he describes it, something that can feed things and that can reproduce itself more. That this one thing leads to another and we start to see life changes. But finally, it moves to what he describes as the tree with fruit. And fruit is often a symbol for, did that bear fruit? That's common speech. Did it work? So it's this ability to work, and the good actions that we do become like these fruits, and that one good action can lead to a new tree and do another. That when you start to turn over these new leaves, right, that comes from that too, you start to get these new modes of operation. And this is the life. This is the spiritual life, because now you're doing these things. I'm not just talking about, I've decided to redo the garage. If it's things for other people, it's the mindset with which you do it. It could be to redo the garage if you want to do it out of love, with this sort of acknowledgement that there's a higher something. That's what brings it to life, and that you're wanting to do it out from this higher perspective of love toward the whole human race, rather than the inward focused on yourself or your own group or something like that. So, and it kind of reminds you of ecological succession. When a place gets totally wiped out, or when there's nothing growing, you get these pioneer vegetation, or pioneer flora, it's called. Where first you get these little grasses, then those make it, or lichens or something even more basic, leading to grasses, to shrubs, to trees. So that's how it colonizes. The same thing happens in the mind, and that's the theme of correspondences, is that what's happening in the natural world is happening in us. Everything reflects everything, and we can learn about these things we couldn't get at in other ways by seeing them in the world around us, right? So I think that that's cool, and it starts to bring this creation story into relevance right now. This is not something that happened a long time ago. This is a process that is going on for us.